Good day, this is Jesse. Um, Today I'm wanting to do a quick video on solving a couple HackerRank problems because I'm still in the process of building my portfolio. Instead of doing a bunch of complex applications that are going to take me a little bit of time, I'm going to go ahead and do some sort of pseudo whiteboard problems by using my HackerRank account. And as soon as I get my first badge on here, which shouldn't take me very much longer. Maybe by today or tomorrow, I'm wanting to get that first little badge just to show some of my work. I'm also going to put a link to my public profile on my portfolio site so that you can feel free to take a look at some of the problems that I solved and some of the code that I wrote for it. Not all of them were. Some of these problems were just to get past it. And this one is labeled as easy, so it's a good one to start out with. It's an algorithm problem, and I'm going to kind of go through the steps of the process of me trying to solve this problem, sort of as a pre-interview whiteboard session. Okay, and so let's jump right into the problem. So it says to consider an array of n integers, where A is an array of a to 0 to a of n minus 1, because there's n integers. The distance between two indices, I and j, is denoted by distance ij is equal to the absolute value of I minus j. Given capital A, which is the array of size n, find the minimum distance dij. Dij is the difference between two integers, such that a of I equals a of j, which means that any two given integers will have, or any two given values at indices I and j will have, those two numbers will have the same value, but it will not be the same index. Okay, and the minimum distance, I guess the minimum distance would be like 1, 2, 3, like indices away from each other. Okay, yeah, I minus j, the absolute value of it. Okay, in other words, find the minimum distance between any pair of equal elements in the array. If no such value exists, print -1. Okay, so whatever the return value is, I'll go ahead and initialize it as -1, and only if these conditions are met will that value be updated. So I can't do any constant values for that return value if I want to do it that way. Yeah, that's obvious. Okay, and so the input, which is going to be from standard n, is going to have the size of the array. So in this example, it's going to be an array of size 6. And then the second line is n space integers. Okay, and then this will be the plain text value of the array will be 7, 1, 3, 4, 1, 7. Okay, and I'm going to do this one in Python. Right, let's do Python 3. I like to use the latest version just by default. Okay, get rid of the space here that they put. Okay, so so they have n and a already here for me, so I don't have to waste any time doing the standard in. All right, okay, and so, to analyze this problem, let's just have this array here. So the first thing that's coming into mind is sort of a brute force way of solving the problem, where you have a loop iterating through each index, and we need to keep a record of both the index of whatever number we're looking at, as well as the value of it. And we're going to have to do that for both, and we're going to have to do that twice. So we're going to have two variables that store the index and two variables that store each value. So for I and j, and then a of I and a of j. Okay, so so to start off with, we can do I is 0. We'll start with I is 0 and go from I is equal to 0 all the way to 5, index 5, and we'll loop through that. And so when I is 0, then we're going to loop from j is equal to 1, because it's 1 more than 0, which we'll do. J starts at I plus 1, which will be 1 in this case, and then loop all the way to 5. So that for this number, we'll have 7, and when we'll compare it to this, if this is not equal, if these numbers are not equal, then we move to the next one. And we keep going until we find a match. So we find 7, which is equal. And so this is I is equal to 0, index 0, and j is going to equal to 5. So 5 minus 0, or 0 minus 5, absolute value, is going to be 5. And so the return value that I have will be changed from -1 to 5, because so far that's our answer. And so our outer loop is going to go to I is equal to 1. I is equal to 1, and also the value is equal to 1. And then we're going to do the same thing, and then we're going to go doop, 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 and we found another match. This is equal to this. And so we're going to subtract the, we're going to get the absolute value of I, which is 1 here, and j, which is 4 here. So 4 minus 1, absolute value, is going to be 3. So we're going to change to 5, the return value, which had 5, now it's going to have 3. And just because this is a small sample and going on and doing that, I can see that there's not going to be an answer there. So I'll go ahead and stop just for the sake of brevity. And so it's going to return a 3. Okay. And so that's going to be the initial thing that I can think of. But I know that there's another clever way of doing this, because we are essentially looking at the values of the numbers, and we are looking at the index of each number, and there are 2 sets of that type of data. Okay, let's see. What are the constraints? Okay, so the number of items are 1, 2, 3, 1,000. There can be up to 1,000 numbers, and each individual value in the array can be as high as 100,000. So it'll be an int, even a 32-bit int, would be fine to hold any of these values. Okay. What about this? What if we have a kind of a pseudo hash table? So if you remember, I said, you know, that you could do 2 loops and do a brute force, where you have the outer loop, where the variables that you're going to be working with, there's going to be 4 variables that you're working with. There's going to be I and j, which are going to be the indices of the number in the outer loop, and then the number in the inner loop and then you're going to have the 2 values. So if you're comparing, if I was 0 and j was 1, then the first value, a of I, would be 7, and a of j would be 1. And so I'm going to do some math to see how this would be, but if this is 100,000, if we were able to have an inverted array, let's say we have an inverted array, so that it's kind of like a hash table. So let's say if the index is 0 and the value is 1, or the value is 7, then on the inverted array, the index would be 7 and the value would be 0. That way it'd be kind of a hash table, kind of a pseudo hash table, since you're not placing things in buckets. Let's do this. Go over to my Python. All right, so comma. Okay, so this is the array. So this is a is equal to that, and n is equal to 6. Okay, and I guess a capital A upside down looks like a capital V. So we'll just say V is equal to an array of none times 100,001. Okay. All right, and so that's the thing. And then we're going to have a for loop, and we need to keep both, let's say I think the index comes first and then the value, and enumerate of a. All right, okay, and so now we've got the index of a, which is AI. Well, let's just call it I, which is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on, whereas a would be 7, 1, 3, 4, and so on. Okay, and then for each one of those, and let's have the answer as -1, and then because this is not set up the same way as it is online, I'm just going to have it print the answer just to see if I'm right at the end of it. Right, and so we're going to go through each iteration, and so let's make, so on each iteration, let's just do a of I, because we're going to have 2 different arrays. So I'll have a, which is lowercase a, which is going to be the value of whatever one we're dealing with in the a, and small v for the value of whatever we're doing in v. And then we'll have ai, which is going to be the index of whatever we're dealing with in the a array. And then we're going to have small case v of vi, which is going to be the index that we're dealing with in v. And so since we're doing the inverse, we're going to do, let me instantiate these here just so they don't have to get reinstantiated every time. V is equal to 0 and v of I is equal to 0. And then we're going to set them over here where the value of v that we're dealing with is actually going to be ai. And then vi is actually going to be a. So that way we're getting the inverse. And then just by naming those things, I can refactor afterwards, because I think that there's, but just to keep it straight in my mind, I'm going to keep it like this for a moment. All right, so, and so now we have the inverse. And at the end, we're going to change the actual value in the array, so v of vi is going to be equal to v. But, and I think that should be the case, every time. However, before we do it, we need to see if we need to update answer. And to know whether we should update answer or not is going to depend on a couple things. First of all, if the answer is equal to none, it's automatically answer is going to be equal to, let's have another variable called diff, where diff is going to be the variable that's going to store the I minus j. What did they call that over here? Okay, dij. Okay, so let me just call this d just to keep the same naming convention. Okay, so d is going to be the larger index that we know is larger. The larger index is going to be v or ai, whichever. So it's going to be ai, and this is always going to be smaller than this. And then let's see if that's right. AI is going to indicate the index that we're on, and then we're going to subtract it by the index that we're looking for, which is going to be okay. It's hard to not draw this on paper. So the difference is going to be whatever the index is now. So yeah, AI, and then we're going to subtract it by. Okay. Oh, instead of, actually, if it is not none, let's do that. Let's do this, because I think this is going to depend on if that is. Then d is equal to a of I. If v of vi is not equal to none. Yeah, that's right. This is what I was thinking of. Okay, so if the actual value, as opposed to the theoretical value is going to be the index. But on this iteration, v of vi could be none. And if it is none, it's going to just set that value to v, which is its theoretical value. And if it's not none, if it is not none, then is whenever we have to check if we need to set answer. So if v of vi is not equal to none, then the difference is going to be the current index we're on minus v, which is the theoretical value of this index of the inverse, which is going to reflect the first index of the first match here. So let's go through this real quick just so I can get my brain straight for a minute. So so let's say that for ai and a, so for 0 and 7, and enumerate of this, and this is the first iteration, v is going to be equal to 0. And vi is going to be equal to 7. So v of 7 is going to equal 0. And then v of 1 is going to equal to 1. V of 3 is going to equal to 0, 1, 2. V, and since there's no matches, this is not going to be assumed because all of these are none by default. And then the same for 4. V of 4 is going to equal to 0, 1, 2, 3. And then v of 1, it does not have none as a value. So this is when it's going to go into this condition. So v of 1 is already equal to 0, 1. V of 1 is already equal to 1. And now we have v is equal to 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and so the difference then is going to be v minus v of the actual value in there. That's right. Yeah, that helped a lot more for me to visualize that by running through the array that way. So so the theoretical value, which would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, subtracted by the actual value there, which is going to be 1. So the difference is going to be 3 here. Right, v is equal to that and minus v. Okay, and so now that we have that difference set up, if the answer is, if the answer equals -1, it's going to automatically update the answer. Or if the answer is greater than the current difference, then answer will be set to the difference that we found just now. Okay. All right, and so it said that the answer to this one should be, to this particular one is going to be 3. So let's see if that works. I think it should work. Let's run it. All right, for this particular situation, it did. So let me just test it and see if it works. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then I'll rethink it. Okay. And does it say to print it out? Yeah. Now we're gonna. So let's check this out. Really hope this works. Okay, though both of those were passed. Let's submit it. Oh gosh, I hope I don't forget anything. And it worked. Yes, I love the sight of all those green check marks. All right, so I'm going to make another video in just a second on another one. I'm kind of proud of myself on this one, actually. I usually have a harder time, or I just don't feel, or I'm rushing through these to try to get the badge, and I'm just trying to get an answer, even if it's not the best, even though I know that I never get the best if I'm not trying hard enough to think about it. And so I'm kind of proud of myself on this one for sticking with it for a minute.